Good morning, Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington, Thursday, the 12th of November, 2020, a cold, frosty day this morning, frost on the windshield. Fortunately, we have a car that we keep in the garage. I had to take it out because I was at the eye doctor early this morning. I had cataract surgery on this eye yesterday, and so today was the first post-operative exam. There's still swelling. My vision doesn't want to focus between the two. I had something called radial keratotomy about 25 years ago in both eyes, where they cut slices in the cornea, kind of like a pie or a pizza, wedges in it, and flatten the cornea. And that complicates the computations for the lens that replaces the natural lens that was removed during cataract surgery. And because of it, then they're not sure if they can get it quite as close as far as me never needing glasses again. Chances are I will still need glasses. I will definitely need them to read because they can't make compound lenses for people who've had LASIK or RK. As my neighbor put it, if I had had virgin eyes like she had, my vision would be so good I wouldn't need glasses for seeing or driving. Chances are I won't need them for driving. I'll still need them for reading up close. Right now, I have only one lens. I had them pop this lens out so that this eye can focus on its own for distance, and this eye, I still have the lens in it, as you can see from the glare, and I can see distance with it, and I can read. So when I read today's text from Exodus 16, I have to kind of cover up one eye. So pardon me, it's a time of waiting. Again, because of that RK, there is additional swelling in the eye, so there's more pain. They said that'll take a few days, putting steroid drops in the eyes every 4 hours, taking anti-inflammatories, just for the swelling and for that kind of the headache in the eye. It's kind of like eating ice cream too fast, but not quite as intense, but it just doesn't go away quickly. So it's a day of rest, a time to not make progress, a time to say, okay, let's just kind of bide our time. And we do that at times. Sometimes we are in that kind of holding pattern, just waiting. In fact, God said to the people Israel, you need to do that once a week. You need to be in a holding pattern. Don't make progress. We are such a goal-oriented people. We think that we've got to move forward. And believe me, I always had a 5-year plan, whether I was in the church or in hospice, a 5-year plan, and it was evaluated twice a year. I would do budgets for church and hospice. The hospice budget, I would quarterly reevaluate it and present what I thought were corrections to our spending plan to the board of directors. The church, the budget was a lot smaller, a lot less complex, didn't have 47 staff, but the same principle applied. Always looking at how you plan, evaluate, correct. And God says that's great because you're moving forward. And if you're a farmer, you're planting, you're planning ahead, you're looking at prices, harvesting, checking the weather, making sure the equipment's working, meeting with the bank to finance the whole operation, everything that's involved, except God says that's how you make your income 6 days a week. The 7th day, you need to make enough on the 6 days so that neither you nor anybody that works for you should work 7 days a week. Now keep in mind, we're working up to the 10 Commandments, but we already have one. I'm the Lord your God. There are no other gods. And God showed that to Egypt, and he showed it to Israel in 10 very specific ways with the plagues. And since then, through the parting of the sea, the giving of the quail and the manna, all these ways in which God has been there, the rock that gave water, the bad water turned to sweet water with the magic piece of wood. Today, chapter 16, verse 22. On the sixth day they gathered twice as much food, 2 omers apiece. By the way, there's omers and there's ephahs, and these are different kinds of measurements. And an omer is a basket that holds 43 eggs, or about 2.5 liters of space, of volume, we would say. That's what an omer is. So 2.5, that's a pretty good sized basket. You think of a 12 carton of eggs. Well, it's almost 4 of those. So that's quite a bit. So that's a lot of flour, a lot of bread, a lot of whatever. That much for each person, every man, woman, and child. That was their daily ration, and it was complete nutrition manna. They call it bread, but I'm sure it had everything they needed to sustain themselves. When all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil. All that is left over put aside to be kept until morning." So they put it aside until morning as Moses commanded, and it did not become foul. There were no worms in it. Moses said, "Eat it today, for today is the Sabbath to the Lord," the 7th day, that is. "Today you will not find it in this field. 6 days you shall gather. On the 7th, which is Sabbath, there will be none." On the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather. They found none. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and instructions? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the 6th day, he gives you food for 2 days. Each of you stay where you are. Do not leave your place on the 7th day." So the people rested on the 7th day. The house of Israel called it manna. It was like coriander seed, white. The taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, in order that they may see the food with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar, put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generation, as the Lord commanded Moses." So Aaron placed it before the covenant for safekeeping. The Israelites ate manna 40 years. Until they came to a habitable land, they ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. An omer is 1/10 of an ephah. So there you go. 10 omers to an ephah. So the 1 omer preserved as part of the dedication to God. It says they kept it before the covenant of God, meaning they kept it as a tribute to God, much as we would have an offering on the altar, or an offering plate there, symbolic of that we are going to give a portion of what is ours to God. So here's really the second of the commandments then, the commandment to take what you have earned 6 days and keep it. But in this case, remember, they could not keep any extra overnight. It would rot or become wormy. Only on the 6th day could they harvest 2 days worth, so that they'd have enough for the Sabbath. Manna, we think of manna as bread, but it isn't bread. It's the flour, it's the seed that can be ground. It says it was like coriander seed, white, that tastes like wafers made with honey. So they still had to grind this, and they would do that with mortar and pestle, with stones, somehow grinding it, making a flour. It said bake it or boil it, okay, so you can either have bread or you can have cream of wheat. But this is your food. Wow, 40 years they ate bread and cream of wheat. Wow, I mean, a can of tuna fish with some dill relish and a little mayo would go a long way to help that out, wouldn't it? Or a peanut butter? I don't know, but just bread, 40 years. Well, that was the staple. Remember, God also gave them the quail. So they had meat, they had other things that they could gather along the way. But this was the guarantee of God. For 40 years, I will always make sure that you have your daily bread. A phrase Jesus will then use when he teaches his disciples to pray. Pray like Israel for daily bread. And remember that on the 6th day, you make sure there's enough for the 7th. You don't go out and work on the seventh. Boy, we've come a long way in throwing away that whole honoring the Sabbath thing, haven't we? See you tomorrow, and I hope I'll see a little better tomorrow. But again, I am having my Sabbath day here, my day of rest on a Thursday. Good to see you all. I know a lot of you have been through cataract surgery and you came through just fine. And your advice to me would be, give it time. And I indeed will. I'm in God's hands, and I know that there are prayers for me. Thank you.